Hello, everyone. Welcome to Springfield, Missouri. YBMcast is powered by Game 7 Baseball. Game7baseball.com. I don't have my hat, so I feel weird. No, I'm not going to start over my hat. Game 7 knows it. We appreciate Dave and Dave. We're going to be Saturday, folks. We're going to be out at the new complex in Warrenton, Missouri. It is opening day. Opening ceremonies are cutting the ribbon. Turf fields. It's going to be great. We're giving away our Super 7 Scholarship Award to Blake Lansbaum. $1,000 scholarship. So if you're playing in Game 7 tournaments, YBM Game 7, we got a $1,000 scholarship again this year for 14U players. We're looking forward to that. Going to be a great season. Remember, Game7baseball.com. Today on the show, as you can see, we're here. Nice place here. I have a cast of characters, and that's
a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Nixa head coach Logan Hughes, Springfield Catholic head coach Courtney Spitz, and Willard head coach Scott McGee. These two, I don't know why we're sitting next to each other.
We don't like each other at all, so it's kind of surprising.
Tomorrow, we will be out at the ballpark at Nixa High School live streaming. So if you got something you want to watch, it's going to be some good baseball. Right, guys?
Yeah, for sure.
Didn't sound real confident there, guys.
We're looking for our first W, so.
Oh, really?
We are.
Yeah, that's right. And you were talking about it earlier. You went to California. How'd that go, Coach?
It was a great trip for our program and for our families, and it was everything we went out there for. I mean, we wanted to play good baseball. Mm-hmm. They play year round out there. We played two teams that have played 13 games each. They all pitched really well. They were very fundamentally sound. The best way I can put it is we stole the first two bases of the game in our first game. They picked off about 50 times after that. And every pickoff was right on the base, like literally right on. I mean, they were so fundamentally sound. But it was great. They bunted all the time. They didn't make mistakes. We made a couple mistakes, and they made us pay for them. And that's exactly what we needed to see. And so it was really good baseball for us to play. So.
And I think that's one of the things, and it's easy to get into this because we were talking about the weather. It's been nice. Coach, you alluded to, but it still feels like we're not getting enough.
Yeah. Like he just talked about, some of these places that get to play year-round, talk about the fundamentals, we're trying to jam all these things in, first and third defenses, rundowns, and then I'm not complaining about our state association or rules, but what happens is that we don't get an opportunity to really implement a lot of that stuff in the fall or winter that maybe some of the other states do. And so then you're doubly behind whenever you go to play in Southern California. And ultimately, eventually, our players are competing with kids in Southern California. He's got some players that have pro aspirations, and this helps set them up. And it also shows them where they stack up. And I've got to get some work done, And, you cover baseball throughout a large range of area. There's a ton of good players out there.
Yes.
And you do a great job of covering them. And then when you get to the coasts and you get even some guys out of this country, there's a lot of competition out there for baseball.
It's a small percentage.
Very small.
At that level.
Very small.
Coach Spitz, we were talking a little bit last night about some of these things, and, you've got a young team.
Yep.
So that makes it doubly difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that when you have a young team, and we're a small school compared to some of the bigger schools in Southwest Missouri, but you get these kids that are playing summer ball, and they're not really learning a system. They're going out and they're playing 30 or 40 games. So when we talk about a jam-packed start of the season, sometimes you forget that you got to restart with some of these young freshmen, some of these sophomores that haven't had a lot of experience of varsity level or high-level baseball against some of the caliber teams that we're playing. And that's the hardest thing for us is getting these freshmen, bunting the baseball. We've lost the art, like you talk about, the fundamentals in California and some of these other regions of the country that are excelling. We've lost some of that, and so I love our area of baseball, and I think it's as talented as it's ever been. But you're right; it's the aspect of trying to teach things quickly, and especially when you combine that with young minds and a lack of experience, it becomes difficult, but that's why we're in it.
Well, I wanted to bring this up because it's different. Down here, we're up in St. Charles County, and in the St. Louis area is a lot of club baseball. And I talked to a lot of the coaches, and there's a lot of times the high school coaches, they will say, when the kids come in, there's some of those kids don't even know what a double cut is.
Yep.
And whatnot. And I know you guys, I know the both of you, I'm not quite sure about your program, Coach Spitz, but I know you guys have feeder programs. So do you think, what's the difference between that and maybe club baseball? And is there a big difference here? Is it moving towards club, or are you guys able to keep your feeders?
So I think from our standpoint, and we're, again, this just being my third year, that's something that we've taken a big emphasis on this last year or two, is really trying to spend more time developing our youth programs, developing our youth coaches. Obviously, we want to have a say in what all of our kids do, and I'd love to coach all 200 of our youth kids. That's not possible.
Right.
And so we're trying to do a better job of spending more time with our youth coaches, hoping that will allow them to kind of say the same things, do the same things, practice, similar setups and stuff that we're doing.
Right.
So that when they do get to us, they've been doing it for maybe 7-8 years. And then we can focus on some other things because we don't have to spend so much time on fundamentals and playing catch, simple catch, which is amazing. But the lack of the ability to play good catch
Right.
is something that's really showing up in
I
our
agree.
program.
I
But
agree.
I think everybody's program. It's just the world is going so much on velocity, and everybody wants to throw 100 and all this kind of stuff, and 90. And we've just kind of lost the art of like strike throwing and playing good catch, because we all want to throw so hard, and so I think it's just a matter of getting our youth programs and our coaches at our youth programs to buy into, hey, we can build the arm strength and stuff, but it's a lot harder to get kids to focus more on accuracy and playing good catch and the discipline of just throwing the ball from here to there. And when we were kids playing 21, right? Like you get out and you play catch and you're like, hey, 21, first one. We talk to our kids nowadays, hey, we're going to go play 21 down the line. And they're like,
What's that?
what's that? And then you
Right.
play it and they're like, well, this is dumb. What are we doing?
yeah,
Like, what?
right.
They're like, well, this isn't any fun. Can I throw it as hard as I can? No, like I want you to hit him in the chest.
Right.
And so I think we've just kind of lost that. And so trying to get that to be more important at our youth programs is, I think, where it has to start.
I think it's interesting, Coach, and I know you have your program as well. And I think this is something, though, that I think is, I've noticed, I talk about this a lot on my show because I think this is very real. And high school coaches everywhere talk about this. And the youth programs, whether it's club or a feeder program, should be about developing the kids to the high school level, correct?
Yes. And I think I think something that just kind of sets this up. Carter Cox.
Yes.
Fort Zumwalt South, great pitcher. We faced him in the state semifinals.
Yes.
His freshman year.
Yeah.
He's more talented than any freshman we have. But because our guys had grown up playing with us and in our system, we played a couple freshmen in that game who were just very comfortable with how we played.
Right.
And I think that's the only way we're going to catch up to St. Louis area and to the big schools in Kansas City. No offense to any of our school programs down here, but we're not going to roll in with Liberty North's talent year in and year out. So can we beat Liberty North? We have to be really talented, but maybe we can be one step below them on talent, but we are very comfortable with all the situations you talked about.
Yeah.
And that's really why we try to do our feeder programs. And,
Yeah.
and Logan's really getting that rolling now. And we started that about 13 years ago, and it has paid off tremendously. And I would attribute a lot of our success to guys coming in as freshmen and knowing exactly how we play and what we do. But unfortunately, it takes a while to do that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of growing pains. And you talk about club baseball, there's some really good club baseball out there.
Yeah.
Really good.
Right.
There's also some really bad club baseball. And so it's not, I think sometimes we pit it against club versus high school. It's no different than high school. There's some really good high school programs and really good high school coaches, and there's some that aren't.
Right.
And I think sometimes we try to do an all or nothing thing. And, so I think just teaching kids how to play baseball. We just got to get more good people with good baseball minds who see the big picture. And as long as we keep doing that, our state can keep elevating. And I do think our state's doing a really good job.
And to your point, we interviewed Carter Cox this year. He's a senior. And I could tell a difference in the maturity of him understanding how to pitch.
Yeah.
This summer, I think he even said it, I focused more on commanding the fastball in the strike zone than just throwing hard. Right. And, as a young pitcher, you're told, we got to throw 90, and so that's what he's trying. He's just trying to throw through a brick wall instead of commanding his pitches and coming to that. And I thought that was what was interesting yesterday with Kalen Adams.
Yeah.
That curveball, he threw it where he wanted to. And it was, he had 5 Ks in 3 innings. Yeah. And it was that curveball, he threw it where he wanted to throw it. And that was the difference in him being able to execute, and get guys out.
And I think when you talk about that, we're also, to flip the script to offense, we're so into exit velocities that we spend all of our time hitting fastballs. Mm-hmm. And so if you can command the breaking ball, and especially the changeup. I don't know if you've talked to really good hitters. They cannot stand facing changeups. And a good changeup, and he saw a guy with a really good changeup yesterday at Glendale. Guys don't practice hitting that stuff enough. And there's only so many hours in the day, so what are you going to focus your time on? And honestly, what gets you recruited is velocity and exit velocity.
That's true.
But what makes you succeed is a bunch of other things. And so it's just where your training economy is spent.
I'm going to come back to that because I liked what you said there, because I think there's some things changing in that when I'm talking to the guys that I'm seeing at the PBR events and things like that. But the changeup. I was talking to a group of hitters and we were doing a winter workout tour stop. It's been a couple years ago, and these are all good. They were good. I knew these kids. They're all good high school hitters. And I said, "What's the toughest pitch?" Lefty change.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was
the hardest pitch to recognize as a hitter.
Right? Across the board, lefty change. It's difficult. How do you hit that? It's if you can command that pitch, you're going to get guys out.
Yeah.
Coach, do you guys have a program, or do you rely on different things that way?
No, we've been slowly trying to, as Coach McGee mentioned, it takes a while. We've been slowly trying to build an Irish baseball youth program, and we have teams in our youth settings. The difficult part for us is, as a private school, I mentioned we're small, but we have 3 schools in town that feed to our private schools. All of our 3 feeder schools that feed to our high school they're all K through 8. Makes it a little bit more difficult when you can't just go to one school, whether it be an elementary or a junior high, and kind of get that information out to those kids. Talking to 3 different schools and rallying a lot of groups of parents, and so that's been a little bit difficult. But I'm taking on 2 summer teams this summer, an 11U team and a 13U team. And the goal is, to have opportunities for every kid who wants to play K through 5. And then when you get up there above K through 5, the 6, 7, 8 range, we're going to try and, as a high school staff, start implementing ourselves into that program. And hopefully we can see some success as we get these junior high kids rolling under the high school supervision. And then, feed that in, as Coach McGee mentioned, getting freshmen that are already comfortable with us as coaches, that have heard the things that we're talking about, that have gone through the practice regimen with us and stuff. I think it'll catch on, but as you mentioned, our high school team, we don't have a summer program. All of our kids will go out and play travel ball in the summer, which I'm completely okay with. I'm a product of travel ball.
Right.
Go play the best competition you can play. But as Coach McGee said, when you play that best competition, then come back and work on what didn't make you successful. If you hit 250 in summer ball, there's a reason why.
Right.
Come back and work on that skill, and let's figure it out together. I think I have a pretty good relationship with a lot of the summer ball coaches around here because I either played for them or worked for them. And I just try and keep that good relationship with them so that, we're talking back and forth about our players that are playing for them. And sometimes I think in high school and summer ball, we just kind of lose that conversation.
Right.
You got a coach here and a coach here, and the player's stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
both coaches of a summer ball program and a high school program need to reach out and get a game plan. It's no different than training any athlete. Figure out what's best for the kid, and I think we can all come together there.
Well, I think that's, to me, communication is one of the most difficult things, because when you have an 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old, okay, you have to spend the time to develop the language. How do they understand what you're trying to get them to conceive in their mind? Because they're trying to feel that. I think one of the most difficult things for a young athlete in any sport is to feel the movement, to understand the movement, to understand the swing, to understand the throw, to replicate, and the language in that to communicate the information, even with video sometimes, can be very difficult. So I think it's what you said, if you don't have kids in a program, it's very difficult sometimes, especially if you don't know the coaches. So they come to your program and you're talking this language where their summer coach talks this way, and they don't know necessarily sometimes how to translate that information, right?
Yeah. And we see a lot of kids that have pitching instructors and hitting instructors.
Yes.
So if you add in a high school coach, a pitching coach, a hitting coach, and then a summer ball coach, you got 4 different coaches telling one kid. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of information for a kid to dissect.
And this hitting coach has a different philosophy than you.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And so the language becomes very difficult, correct?
Yeah.
So I think that is sometimes maybe an advantage with a feeder program, yeah?
Well, I think kind of what we're seeing a lot too is, and this isn't a knock on
No,
people.
no, this is just
'Cause I think there's a lot of
conversation.
good hitting guys out there.
Yes, absolutely.
Hitting instructors don't see the kids hit in a game a lot of times.
Right.
They don't watch the kids at bats. They don't see all these things. So they build a good swing that plays in the cage or in batting practice, or looks good. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to replicate what you do in the cage to what we're seeing in a live game on a kid, a left-hander who's throwing 78 and then has a really good changeup, but he throws a 2-0 breaking ball. When you get in BP and everything's the same and you're like, whack, whack, yeah, it looks really good.
Right.
Well, you're not having to make adjustments in the middle of your bat. Like this pitcher is not going to throw, 1, what what's coming, and 2, where you want it. Like he's going to throw it where you don't want it. And then he's going to change to 70 miles an hour and then 80 and then 65. And so I think the issue is a lot of times we build a pretty swing that looks good, but they don't understand that there's a difference between swinging and hitting.
Agreed.
And we got a lot of good swingers.
Right.
They're just not. We're just not. That's not a knock on hitting guys, because they're not in the games
agree.
with them.
I understand. I
And
understand what you're saying.
you can't, like the kids have to learn how to hit.
Yes.
Like we're trying to help them learn how to hit, but ultimately they have to get a good approach together, a good plan together, and then they have to go execute it.
Right.
And so I think too many times we get so caught up in the video and what it looks like. And man, I watched our swings from off of wedge last night, and they look good on video, but our timing was off, so it doesn't matter. And we're taking a lot of good swings, but if you're not on time, it don't matter how pretty your swing is. And so we've got to understand the difference. And the kids nowadays, they're paying these guys to work with their swings.
Yeah.
That's where that communication has to continue to happen. Like, hey, that's good. Your swing looks good, man. Now we got to go hit. Like, you got to go get it. This is what you're going to face. So I know what you want to do. You got to figure out what he's going to do and how to beat him.
Go ahead, Coach.
These guys have both done this at the college level.
Yeah.
And I know some players
right.
who've played it at Drury. And I guarantee they had guys who were not great BP hitters that were really good in-game hitters, and then definitely vice versa.
Right.
And don't want to name
The
names,
5
but I'm sure
o'clock
Logan
hitter,
can say it
right?
now.
The 5 o'clock hitter.
Yeah, I'm sure Courtney could too. And part of that also, you mentioned earlier, the hitting coach, the summer ball coach, a lot of guys don't ever want to take a step back. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's what's necessary. And so you made a comment last night about us hitting the ball to the backside well.
Yes.
Something we struggled with mightily the last 2 years with some guys who are Division II level players that can do a lot of great things. But sometimes you've got to take a step back and say, can I hit a ground ball as a right-handed hitter with the second baseman on a curve ball that stays in her half? And they say, why am I working on that? I don't want to do that. Well, that has
Inside
to be
out swing.
part of your swing.
Right.
It doesn't. You don't. That's not your goal when you get in the game. But I've got to be able to build a complete swing. And a lot of times, guys don't want to take that step back. And when you are constantly switching who you're trying to please every couple of months, that coach also doesn't want him to step back a little bit.
Yeah,
And that's hard. And so these guys got to do it at the college level where they got to develop that hitter over 3 or 4 years and that kind of stuff. Now you extrapolate that to a 6-month season, or you do that with an 8th grader.
Right.
Man, that gets really tough. And it's really tough on that kid.
I think that we find ourselves as high school coaches teaching less of the swing and more of
Without
the
question.
approach.
We get a lot of guys with good swings.
Yeah,
agree.
The swing you come in with in high school, we can make some small tweaks, but you better figure out as a freshman an approach, a mental mindset.
Yeah.
Because I feel that a lot of my kids can swing the bat. I'm comfortable with their swings. I need their approaches to be – I need a 2-strike hitting approach. I need – ability to be on time in a 2-0 count. Not let fastballs go right down the middle, right by you because we're just not ready for it. Little things like that.
I love that. That to me is the best conversation because, as you said, most of these kids, they have a good structure. They have good swings.
Yep.
But then approach, I don't think people understand what an approach is. We say, well, have an approach. And the kid's like, okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Agreed.
And that's the thing. And I believe it starts with the timing. It starts with timing. Because if you're not seeing the ball early enough, then that right there becomes, you're done. Forget it. I don't care. I don't care if the kid's throwing 78. If you don't see the ball early enough, it's still hard to hit.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. And when you talk about, I was doing this, in youth baseball, that was one of the biggest things that I always talked to the kids about was, where do we load? So you can see the ball early, you load on the break. So you're prepared. All you're doing is putting your focus. You have a soft focus and move to that hard focus. You got to find that ball coming out of the hand to move. That's the first thing in an approach. And if you don't start there, then you're done. You forget it. And then you have to understand, what are you looking for? I know there's a lot of guys that cut plates in half, but talk to us about when you talk about approach, what are the first things you put to the kids?
Tell me all your hitter approaches.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow night.
Oh, man, there you go. I did it. Well, you don't have to. I'll leave you guys out.
No. Like what Scott talked about, like I think what is happening is we're building a lot of swings that, and we've all hit.
Yes.
When I get in the cage, like if I go in the cage right now or on the field, I'm going to see how far I can hit the ball. I'm going to launch it. Like that's what everybody,
Chicks
oh
dig
my
the long
goodness,
ball.
did you see that ball? Like the problem is we don't have kids that, like you said, take a step back, that I'm going to hit this ball right over first base. Like I'm right-handed and I'm going to hit it. Why? Well, I mean, it doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look great. It's not cool.
Right.
But I got to be able to do that. Like,
Right.
What if that's what the guy is going to do, and that's how he's going to pitch me? I have to be comfortable in the box enough to say that I can do that.
Right.
And we don't have enough. We're not building enough hitters that adjust, that have the ability or are comfortable and can accept like adjusting. And I think we talked about 2-strike approach. It's like, well, I'm good enough. I'm just going to take the same swing all the time, even when I have 2 strikes. And if I swing and miss, well, what happens if I hit it? What happens if I hit a home run? Like, the problem is we're not buying into enough of like, I'm going to adjust my swing because we don't practice hitting a ground ball to second baseman. I don't practice hitting a ball down the right field line. I don't practice choking up and just barreling a ball that's in on my hands. Like, we get in BP and it's like whack, 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 and we're not practicing enough. And the same thing with the time sake. We don't have enough time to practice it consistently either to get our guys to buy into, hey, man, I know you can hit a ball 450 foot to left center. It's high school ball. You're going to do it 3 times all year. Like, I want the guy that's going to get to 2 strikes, 60% of it at bats, and know that he's going to find a way to win.
Right.
You know, because he's going to get a
Even if you
nasty
have a-
left-handed changeup, just slap it over the second baseman's head.
Or even if it's a
full.
productive out.
Yeah. Instead of just taking the same swing. We're just not building enough hitters that can adjust.
Right.
Or are buying into adjusting, I think.
You look at the Jake McCutcheon from Francis Howell, who's
yeah.
now at Missouri State, not a physical guy.
No.
He's the definition of that. You know, we played them a couple. I think McCutcheon was a senior. Ball over the left fielder's head. Ball turned into the right center gap. Next at bat, runner on third, one out. Hits a ground ball to the shortstop. Like, being able to do those kinds of things is huge, and it's the guys who go on and have success after high school as well. That stuff matters.
And he's having success.
He is.
You know, he took that opportunity when he got it
Yep.
as a freshman
Yes.
at Mo State. Hadn't let go of it.
Correct.
And I think that's the difference. And the other thing, too, when you look at, especially, you know, if you got a young team, when you're looking at these things and you see your lineup, right? You're not dealing with grown men. You know, at college, all of a sudden you got guys that are 21, 22, 23 maybe. You're dealing with 15, 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids. You got this kid that comes in, even as maybe a junior. He's 5'9", 160 pounds. He's not banging the ball to the wall.
Correct.
And yet seems to be the thought process. And how do we change that thought process?
I mean, for us, we try not to have a cookie cutter approach or a cookie cutter hitting program. I don't want every kid in my lineup to be thinking the exact same way or to be taking the exact same approach or exact same swing. A lot of the times our approach is dictated off the pitcher. We're not necessarily going in with a concrete approach of what we really do well. We're going to try and eliminate what another pitcher does really well. I think you can find that most of the time. I don't think it's secret stuff what pitchers are good at and what they're not so good at based on each individual guy. But you get a small kid in there. I mean, I've probably got 2-3 freshmen that 5'9", 160 would be a lot bigger than what they are. But they're going to play this year.
Yeah.
They got some skill. And, you know, we talk about, for us, the biggest thing is being productive at the plate, disciplined strike zone, not giving someone else some help, using your skills. And for us, if I got a small kid, I'm telling them to put the ball on the ground. They got to do 2 things to get you out, 3 things well. They got to field it, they got to throw it, and they got to catch it. And if you hit the ball, pop up to the shortstop, that eliminates 2 of those things, you know. So,
And in your field, that's a difficult gig right there, bro.
we're all 3 of
Obviously,
us.
the shortstop ended up in right center.
All 3 of us are in the same boat in that. So I don't know. It's you know, kids will look at you with, you know, a little bit of a awkward face if a coach tells them hit the ball on the ground, because that's not popular these days.
No.
But I think we just try and replicate too many swings of what we're seeing on TV. Too many Division I hitters are hitting the ball out of the ballpark. Too many Major League Baseball players who are paid millions of dollars to hit the ball out of the ballpark. And our kids are trying to replicate those swings. And we tell our kids all the time, I hope you go pro, and I hope you get paid to pay this game. But it's not going to happen anytime soon. So build the skill set before you rep the TV swings.
I think that's what's happening is we're fighting. Like, just look at Major League Baseball now. Like, how many guys hit 300 anymore?
Oh,
No, but everybody's making more money than they've ever made.
Right.
Because they're striking out 300 times, but hitting 45, 50 home runs.
Right.
And what our kids see is these guys making lots of money by launching the ball out of the ballpark. What they don't see, and because you ask them, have you watched Mike Trout? Like, have you watched him hit in a cage? Have you watched his BP? Have you watched? And then you watch these guys, and Freddie Freeman's one of my favorite guys to watch. Like one of the greatest. And he hits the ball out of the park,
Yeah.
but he literally puts the ball in the tee and he hits a ground ball about 100 times a day to the shortstop. Like, no, our kids don't see that. They're not watching those videos because those aren't cool. And so I think that's what we're fighting, is trying to get our kids to understand is, Freddie Freeman can hit the ball out of the ballpark anytime he wants. Sure. That's not what's going to help him hit a 98-mile-an-hour fastball and then a 92-mile-an-hour cutter and an 80-mile-an-hour changeup. Like, he has to build a swing that allows him to adjust to do all those things if he wants to be a good hitter. And so I think that's what we have to continue to try to get our kids to buy into is like the process of allowing yourself to be wrong and still catch a barrel. Like have your timing be off and still find a way to hit a ball hard enough to get it through the 6 hole. Yeah. That's cool. Like hitting the ball in the 6 hole with 2 strikes is really cool. It's a lot cooler than that huge swing and miss you just took.
Well, great hitters get a lot of miss-hit hits. And we even talk about that in our BP rounds. Like, if your miss hits are all routine fly balls to center, you're not going to be a good hitter. And that permeates no matter what age group you're playing. Mm-hmm. I have a son now who's a sophomore. These guys are going through it with younger kids. The kids who were miss-hitting balls and were pop-ups as 3rd and 4th graders, that's still their miss-hits to this day. And the kids are working. This is not a lazy kid issue. It is a
right. I agree.
I would say this is my I graduated high school in 2000 from Ozark, and you go forward to now. Kids are working way harder than they were in 2000.
I agree.
And they're better players. Are they to where they could be if they change some of their thought processes on some of this?
I think they're more. I don't know if it's better play. I know they're more structured. I know they have more information. I know they have more instruction. And I think kids have, as you said a little bit ago, the swing looks good. I think the structures are there. But is the baseball IQ coming along with it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think the compete factor is like ultimately we're building all these good things in this velo and this hard thrower. It's hard to replicate. Like, I just want you to compete, man. I just want you to be a bulldog. Like, want the ball when it's full count with the bases loaded in the last inning to go to the state championship. Like you can't teach that, kind of stuff. Like,
I agree.
I agree. Somehow we got to continue to work that. The same thing at the plate. Like, just fight, man. You got to 2 strikes. I don't know. What's your approach? Don't find a way not to get out. That's what your approach is. Like, your approach is to just win. Find a way to win.
I like that.
And so I think like that's I'd rather look good though. You know what I mean? It is somehow not, and I'm not saying it's consistent across the board, but that's kind of how it is. It's like, I want to look good doing it. I want to feel good doing it. Like, I just want you to compete, man. And my college coach said, if you can put the bat under your armpit and hit 400, put the bat under your armpit. I don't care what it looks like. But find a way to compete in the batter's box.
Right.
And I think that's what the 2-strike thing is, and just in general is like, find a way to win.
Right.
Find a way to get it done. Whatever it looks like, choke up, get on the plate, check swing. I don't care. That's just something that's hard to get kids these days to buy into. Like, yeah, I don't care if it looks good. But you won.
We talked about that. Our opening weekend, we faced a pitcher from Lee Summit, and he did a good job of mixing it, and our kids just didn't offer. They see some off speed, and they just didn't offer. And I think they're scared of the swing and miss because they think that that's a fail. And so we talked to our kids, hey, you've got to swing. You cannot give yourself one swing in at bat to put a ball in play and be consistently successful there. So going what you're saying is, kids want to look good, and to them, a swing and miss, it doesn't look good to them. It doesn't feel good to them. But going back to what you said, you put a bat in the zone and you stay in the strike zone with it, you might swing and miss, or you might hit a dink and dunk down the first base, third base line, or a ball in the shortstop, third base hole, and that gets things going. And now the next kid's confident because you reach base and he can do it too. And a death of 1,000 cuts is a win. Just hit singles. Singles.
I think it's interesting too, when you talk about approach, I always believe that, if a kid understands, if you're in the middle of a rally, and you're sitting there and you're looking at this and you talk about approach, as a coach, look, you barrel one up early, first strike, you go grab it. You get that first strike, and we're in these situations. I need you to start looking at the team. I'll give you a swing. See if you can put it out of the park. But you get into those, those next 2 strikes, we got to start thinking team. We got to start putting ourselves in that position. How are we moving the runners? What am I looking for here as a pitch? You know, this guy's got a good breaking ball. He might have got a whole, I might have fouled that first one off, missed the fastball. Okay, now I just have to compete to put my team in a position to be successful, right?
Absolutely. And I think they alluded to not being cookie cutter hitters or whatever. And we're fortunate, you know, the guys I'm starting in my starting 9 right now, 7 of them have only really played with us. We have a couple guys that play for clubs and they're good players.
Yeah.
But so what we've done is we've been able to develop individualized approaches for each one of those kids of here's exactly what you're looking at. And then whenever I start to structure our lineups, we can start to offset that. Okay, here's our guy who hits breaking balls well. Well, right after him, I'm going to have the guy who hits the fastball well. And it allows us to start knocking down that pitcher over the course of 7 innings to where we don't have these huge lulls in our lineup because we have guys who could do a few different things.
Right.
And guys just have to be comfortable with who they are. You know,
Right.
if you're the guy who hits the ball backside ground balls, be that guy. And if you go 0 for 4 today because that skill set didn't match up with the game, that's okay because there's going to be days where you're going to be the guy who busts out for us.
Right.
And, you know, I think too many people view baseball offense as an individualized effort. And it's about what can our team take. You know, and we had opening weekend in Columbia. We played really well. And our 1, 2, 5, and 6 holes were phenomenal offensively. 3 and 4 holes didn't have a whole lot of success, but it's because of some of the things I just talked about. And they're going to have their days where they're really good because of the types of pitching we're facing that day.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important for kids to understand is you can contribute a lot to the offense on days that you go 0 for 3. You know, there's other parts to offense even. That doesn't even factor in the defense and everything else.
I want to do this before I let you guys go. But you know, we're down here, Southwest Missouri. We're working. Youth Baseball Midwest is working very hard to get more acclimated or aware of what's going on down here, the teams, understanding more of the landscape, because it is different. Each area, Kansas City is a little different. St. Louis this down here, but you know the level of competition. I was looking at the rankings, you know, from the coaches polls, from PBR, for my own, because I put those out. Mine are different than the others and whatnot. It's just my own personal view of things, you know, because I can be wrong. It's okay.
Sure.
and I am. If you ask the guys around me, I'm wrong a lot of the time. No, I'm kidding. But I'm wrong some of the time. But I'm just curious, and I'm looking just at the coaches polls. You know, when we're looking at, I gotta get over here. I'm sorry, that was a mess. You know, when we're talking about Class 4. I know there are some smaller areas around here. Isn't Licking down in this area too?
Sort of, yeah. Yeah. It was about an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they won the state championship last year, and they look to be pretty good again this year. And I saw their schedule. They kind of come around and play some of the bigger schools too, right?
They've reached out. I know they reached out in the fall.
We're actually playing them this spring. Yeah. We're going up to Licking this spring in the last week of the season. I like playing really good small schools. I think it's really good for you to face. They're usually really fired up, and so it's really
We've
really
had
good.
them on the schedule the last 2 years. Last year we got rained out. We played them the year before.
Yeah.
And they had some talent. You could see it coming up. They had some young kids. You know, and I know their coaches down there, Coach Cole Roark and Coach Arv over there. They do a great job, and it's a passionate baseball town.
I love that. And of course, you know, with Logan Rogersville over there, they just kind of seem to year in, year out, just roll out good teams. Yep. And they go out and compete with Class 5 and 6. And we were talking about this a little bit, I think, yesterday. And I was talking with Coach Durnan from Campton, same way. And, you know, he says, we got to travel everywhere because of where they're located.
Yep.
So does that have a lot of factor in what you guys do? Do you have to travel a lot more in this neck of the woods to find that competition?
I think just competition overall down here is really good right now. If we want to face velocity, more velocity from the
Right.
standpoint of consistent arms, there's quite a few down here. But if we want to do it more consistently, then we have to travel more. If we want to play more 6A games, to get used to, to play Liberty Norths and Francis Howells, who that's who we're going to compete with for a 6A title, then yeah, we're going to have to travel a little bit more. The baseball down here in Southwest Missouri is really good right now. Teams are really, really good.
Yeah.
I don't think we have the big power, bat speed guys as much as you're going to see from some of those bigger schools. I don't think we're going to have 95, 97 guys like you're going to have at Blue Springs and South and Francis Howell consistently across the board.
Right.
I think what we have down here is really good baseball teams and really good baseball like players that just play the game well. And I think that's how we're going to have success against a lot of those bigger schools consistently. Is we're going to have to do the little things like Scott was talking about. We're going to have to bunt better and play solid defense and execute the small ball stuff better. Just like the 6A Final Four last year, like they were all 2-1 ball games, 3-2 ball games. Yeah. Well, that could be the difference in getting a bunt down.
Exactly.
Or playing good catch in the first inning. That's the difference. That's how we're going to have to execute because we're going to be 85 to 88, maybe 90, and we're going to have to pitch.
You look at 2013. We played in the Final Four. We played CBC. They threw Veerling. They had Jake Berger. They had all those guys. We played really good baseball. We really didn't have much of a chance because our area at that time was not really preparing us. I don't know that Logan could be completely prepared for the Final Four if he only stayed around here. But what I will say is that you look at our depth of teams down here is really strong. Yeah. I think if you go to St. Louis and Kansas City, when you're talking about the Staleys of the world, the Liberty Norths, their top end, there's 6, 8, 10 phenomenal KC teams. St. Louis, there's probably 10, 12, 14. There's also a lot of not good baseball.
I agree.
And down
I've
here,
seen it. Yeah.
We don't have very many transfers. I mean, the kids who played baseball at Willard in 4th grade are still the kids playing baseball at Willard as juniors and seniors. And it's the same at Nixa and Ozark and even the Springfield schools where you think there might be more of that. There's really not. And so therefore the talent doesn't get concentrated at 1 or 2 schools, and I think maybe it does a little more. I see some of the kids who transfer sometimes, and especially in St. Louis where, they go to some different schools. And so it really allows at the Class 6 level, it's really hard to compete with that. And that's where probably, we need to make the next jump is how do we catch the CBCs? Marquette beat us in 2019. 2019.
And that was the last year of the full Class 5 before they jumped to Class 6.
Yeah. So that was our last year in 5, and Marquette, we were up 3-2 in the 7th, and Marquette beat us. And the Loesch, who went to Mizzou, really threw well that day. And how can we make that next jump as an area is really what we're all trying to do. Right. And it's blending what we already do well with how can we take that next jump is not easy. I mean, and we're this year we'll root for Logan because we're Class 5 and he's Class 6, but.
I want to do this before last thing here. You guys are coach, and sorry, I know I personally, we talked about this a little bit last night on the phone, but I think it's tough. You guys made that jump to Class 5 this year because of the championship points. Solid team. I still think you have some talent there, but that's going to be a little different thing. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on Class 5. I'm sure you all voted, you send in your stuff, coach's poll.
They didn't put me on that email because I hadn't been Class 5 yet. I saw those rankings come out and I was like,
I missed that. Nobody gave what?
But it's all good.
So who's your top 5 in the state right now?
We're new to it. But we have been playing Class 5 and Class 6 teams for the last couple of years on our schedule. Obviously, we have a lot of respect for Willard, who's in our backyard, and a competitive program and, routine trips into the postseason and a lot of great players. And then I think that for us, that's our district is our focus right now. Branson, I think, has a solid club this year. They had a good little run there last year and had some good showings in the postseason. Didn't come out on top, but those kids got that experience, and I think they start a senior heavy team this year. So, we're looking to stay with our focus in that. We're not trying to branch out and say who we might see in a deeper postseason run, because we've got to kind of make our mark in our own district before we can venture out and say, the Rockbridges and the other schools in that. So I'll lend that to Scott. Has way more experience and played those teams routinely more than I have.
I like your thought process with Branson. I think that's going to be tough.
Yeah, Branson's got 15 seniors they can play. They're probably the most experienced team in our area, I think, and they're a good Class 5 program. I think Zumwalt South, Festus, Borgia.
Yeah.
And then us and Webb, I would say, are the top five.
Webb's good.
And I didn't count Jeff City when Jordan Martin's on the mound.
Right. Yeah.
Good luck. You better win 1-0. With him, Elias Catholic, the Wyrick kid is a competitor.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a competitive kid. I think he's going to Central Missouri.
Yeah.
He's going to be really good there. He fits into that mindset that they play with up there. And you go to the western side of the state. I really like Kearney.
Right.
They're doing some good things
really
there,
good.
and so
I think Platte County is there too.
yes, Platte County. So I think there's I would say when you get to the postseason, and this is the flaw we have with our postseason right now, is that one guy makes a huge difference, and so then you start looking at Borgia,
Jack Noby.
You start looking at Festus with Shermer. You got Carter Cox. Those kinds of guys. It can be really tough.
And then behind those, and that's why Borgia, you have Candlebinder.
Yeah.
Who comes in. He's one of those kids that's in that low to mid 80s, competes, throws strikes. Hankey behind Carter. And I think those are the 1-2s, as you said. And that's why I hadn't seen your team. That's why I liked Adams. I think when you start getting into those situations, you're right. That one game.
Yeah.
If you run up against Jordan Martin.
Right.
It's Cox and Martin. Okay, good luck.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think those are the things that are I agree with you. And that it's who's on the mound that day at that point.
And we've looked at trying to do some sort of a best of three for quarterfinals, which
we
would be
talked with
phenomenal.
Coach Wilson about that.
Yes, yeah. Coach Wilson's really championed that, even though he's getting out. And
I know.
I got a lot of respect for him and what he does. But I think that would really help to kind of determine who the best team is. That would be good. But if you had to name a Class 5 group, I think Class 5 is a touch deeper than it was
I agree.
2 years ago and 3 years ago.
I agree.
Last year, I liked the depth in Class 5. And so I think Class 5 is improving in there. And you start adding in programs that, we have our own thoughts about the championship factor. That's probably something else that needs to be looked at down the road. But you start moving guys up into that and go from there.
Rockwood Summit up there, they're really good. I think,
Yes.
Brought up West Plains. There's
Tank Sims can play.
Tank Sims, the catcher, is a really nice player.
One of the best hitters I've seen in a long time.
And so I just think there's probably 10, 15 deep in Class 5. It is. I agree with you. There's some really good Class 5 teams this year, and I think it's going to be an interesting scenario as it moves through. So, good luck.
Yes.
Yeah. Coach, Class 6.
I mean, it's loaded.
Yeah.
It is.
And we're gonna face most of them. So we'll let you know when we see them. I think we got 4 coming up next weekend in the red and blue tournament, and we play Kearney, and then we play Howell. We play Rockbridge 3 times. We play Francis Howell. We need to get up to St. Louis probably a little bit more. We might need to join this Troy tournament that they got.
That looked like a good tournament.
It was a really good tournament.
Looks like a good one.
We'll do that instead of California. I don't know, St. Louis,
Yeah.
California.
Because the Troy and then Coach Perkins does the Midwest Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
We probably need to get up to those and play some more of those guys up there. But
Parker Frazier out at Bishop Kelly. They had a tournament 2 years out there 2 years ago that we went out there in Oklahoma, and that was we saw
really
Blue
good,
Valley, Blue Valley West. We saw Bishop Kelly. A lot of good baseball in Oklahoma. That if you can't get into some of those tournaments here in the Midwest, there's a lot of good opportunities out there in Oklahoma to make your mark and see some really good pitching.
there you go.
and we're gonna go. I mean, we play Fayetteville who's they're loaded. I mean, they can really hit. And so we're going to see them. We're going to play Harbor down there. So, we'll find out, how good. But I think it's really good. Blue Springs, who we ended up getting past last year, is better. They got the two brothers up there that are incredible on the mound. And the lefties even better.
The Gibblers, yeah.
Yeah, the lefties even better this year. So, again, it's one of those things you run up against a dude, and that could be it.
I haven't seen I haven't seen high school teams in the class and this is in Class 6 particular with this kind of depth ever personally. I mean, with Blue Springs South, Liberty North doesn't necessarily maybe have as much depth as they've had. Francis Howell with their depth. I haven't seen high school teams with that kind of depth. It's crazy.
I think the only way we compete with them is we have to play perfect defense. I mean, we can't make mistakes. You make mistakes against Liberty, and it's a bomb, and it's a 3-run bomb. And Francis Howell, I mean, they're scoring 100 runs against everybody. Yeah. And so it's like you can't make mistakes, and then we have to find ways to create runs other than just swinging the bat. I mean, we're going to face, you're going to face the Gibbler kids, 93, left-handed with a disgusting slider. Like, we'll probably strike out 10 times, 12 times. Then we got to find a way to be more productive with other outs and create runs.
That's probably where Nixa, if you had to say why they could win it, their team speed is, I think, is close to the top in the state.
Yeah.
Them and Staley, from watching statewide baseball, I think those are the two quickest teams in the state. So that you start putting pressure on defenses, and Dave, when the wind's blowing in, I always let the wind blow out. But Logan's probably rooting for the wind to be blowing in the postseason, where his speed can really make a difference because his top 3 guys in his lineup can really move.
And you got Caden Cloud at short. Yeah. You got guys that been through it last year. They were there.
That helps.
It does help, and I think that gains experience.
Yep.
And until you've been in that kind of pressure, especially high school kids, in my estimation, until you've been in that kind of pressure, you really don't understand the level. It just keeps ramping up and ramping up, and I think that you can't take away from the experience.
No doubt. Well, and we're going to see. This comes with having success, and again, it's how good baseball is down here. We're going to see most everybody's best arm, just like everybody else, which is great. Like that's what we need to set us up. And so we might fail a little bit more, and we might struggle a little bit more, because you are going to face, once you've had success, everybody's going to throw the better guys against you, which is understandable.
Right.
But that's good for us.
Like that's
what sets us up for the long haul. And so we're taking some bumps right now. But we've had a chance to win every game. It's crazy the difference in winning and losing is one little thing. And last year, I think we won 7 games by 1 run, and so far we've lost 3 by 1 run. And so we just got to learn how to win this year, and they haven't done that yet.
Right?
We just haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I agree, gentlemen. Thank you very much. I could go on and on and on personally. But we won't do that.
Thanks for coming down and covering. You guys covered our game last night.
Yep.
I've had multiple positive comments about how well organized and ran it was. And you guys are doing some great things for our state and the Midwest in general.
I appreciate that very much, Coach. I love these venues. I mean, it was great calling the game from a press box. Yeah. I enjoyed the heck out of that. Because we're usually down, St. Louis. I'm unfortunate. We don't have some of these facilities, and so it was really nice. I did umpire a game on your field over there back in the day with Mid America. I was up here with a group. So
if it was back in the day, it's changed a little bit. It's in good shape. We have an official press box. We're not pooched in the coop that they used to have. We used to have stairs and then just a tarp over the top. And then you were running the scoreboard or the PA. You just fight it, man.
Oh, man.
It's changed a little bit. So you're welcome down here anytime. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we definitely are going to do that. And gentlemen, we definitely, we have the ability to bring you in. I'm going to be in touch with you more. I'd love to have you on the show as much as we can do that. And I know it's busy time now, but we definitely want to do that. So
be a good game tomorrow.
We're looking forward to it.
Tomorrow be 2 really good teams tomorrow getting after it, and
good weather.
Good weather.
Finally
I know.
got good weather this
And
time.
That was the thing. When we looked, I was telling my wife, I'm like, man, there's rain in the forecast on Thursday. And there was.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, gosh. And it's 65 and sunny tomorrow. I was like, yeah.
Yep, it's great.
Yeah, last year we played at US Ballpark and it was 40 and misty. And he had asked me if we wanted to push the game. But I had been
It's like,
banged.
no, I got Ben going. We're not pushing it.
Yeah, but we had also lost.
That's what it was.
It was our first game of the year. We had lost games due to weather. The opening weekend we were supposed to play was 13 degrees. So we had no games under our belt. They had already played a couple, and I said, we want to get on the field. So we played in 40 and misty. It was not ideal. I'm not sure if there were more than 4 hits in the game, and I think we won because the catcher dropped the ball. So
It was one of those games where you just find a way to win.
Yeah.
it was ugly. I owe Coach Hughes a steak dinner for playing in that one.
Well, folks, remember, please, tune in tomorrow. 4:30 is game time. We'll start the pregame at 4:15. We'll have interviews on the field with these coaches. We're looking forward to it. Gentlemen, again, thank you very much. Folks, if you like what we're doing, please, right down there, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment below. Tell us what you think about the conversation. We do appreciate it very much. Everybody have a great day, Lord. All you pitchers, got some advice for a pitcher? You guys are all hitters, right?
I'm a pitching guy. But
You're a pitching guy?
Yeah.
As a
So
catcher,
what's the advice for the pitchers?
throw off speeds for strikes.
There you go. Hitters,
That's
give them some advice, Coach.
When they throw for strikes, don't miss it.
There you go. That's good advice. See? Sound advice. High school coaches. I love the sound advice. We'll see y'all next time.